Dallas Cowboys 7-10. Um, Winners of the offseason by bringing in Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach. But I feel like we've reached the point, right, where so it came out as hard outrage. And I was definitely part of that, right? Our fantasy colleague Michael Fabiano led a pack of Cowboys fans to choose a different team and it marched out of Cowboys fandom for hiring Brian Schottenheimer.
Too. He
got angry.
Yeah.
He did. And as is his right to do so. So what we have now, though, is interesting because we're in this little sweet spot for Shotty where I think he was so pummeled by the public perception that it's almost like players are like kind of rallying the boats around him because, what else are you going to do? Like go out at the podium and be like, yeah, I didn't want him either, and I think that Shotty is smart enough and he's got enough emotional intelligence to know like, okay, this is how I play my cards and I have to get these guys together somehow. And it seems like, he did a good job putting the staff together. Clayton Adams was a great hire at OC. Matt Eberflus was a great hire at DC. It would not be weird at all for me to see them in the playoffs. I still think what Jerry did was wrong in not trying to hit it out of the park with a hire and trying to hire a guy where you're paying him less than you're paying Mike McCarthy. But I think that, ultimately this team making the playoffs wouldn't be weird for me. This is still a great team that won 7 games last year with like Cooper Rush at quarterback.
So they're interesting because every team in the NFC East is has at least a moderately difficult schedule because of the draw, because they play the NFC North, the AFC West. That's difficult. Okay. So that's the baseline. But you look at their schedule, and what's interesting to me is like the front end actually looks relatively manageable. Like you could get yourself to the bye in good shape, and then you come out of the bye and you're at Vegas and okay. But after that, so Eagles on a short week, Chiefs on a short week, at Detroit, Minnesota, Chargers, at the Commanders, and at the end they finish in New York against the Giants. So it's like they've got sort of this backloaded schedule, and I think that could actually wind up helping them, just in that they're actually like remarkably young on their offensive line, coming out of the retirement of Zach Martin, with Cooper Beebe in his second year, with Tyler Guyton in his second year at left tackle, and with Tyler Booker as a rookie at right guard. So 3 of your 5 starting linemen, and you have Tyler Smith and Terrence Booker there too, but 3 of your 5 starting linemen have a combined 2 years of experience. So like maybe it gives you the chance to work that out. Maybe it gives you the chance to work out roles with Pickens and Lamb. And the defense should be pretty good, with Eberflus coming in, they still have some of their frontline guys. So I don't know, this should be again, if you think Dak will be Dak, if you think they'll figure out the running back situation, if you think a franchise that's always been pretty good at identifying and developing offensive linemen figures out the offensive line issue over the first half of the season, it's easy to be glass half full here. Now, we haven't gotten to summer yet, which means we haven't gotten to the annual contract dispute, which appears to be coming, with Micah Parsons. He's this year's edition of what we had last year with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. But I don't mind the spot they're in. I think that they have a chance to build some momentum early on, build some confidence early on, and then, go into the back end of that schedule, which again is brutal, with a pretty good team.
I think that to me, it's not even a question of and we'll see what Dak looks like, but to me, it's not even a question as to whether or not he's always going to be in that, whatever, 5 to at worst, if he plays like a full season, in that 5 to 11 range in terms of like the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, and I don't know that he'll ever be in the Allen,
one, right?
Burrow, Jackson,
Probably not.
Mahomes tier. I don't know that he'll ever be there, but I think he's firmly right beneath that group.
Um, but you know,
Because I think we kind of know what he is too now. I mean, he's turning 32 in July, so
man, I just turned 37. I feel great. I could go out there and win a couple games.
Still got a couple bullets left in the gun.
Still got it. Well, we'll see when I start flinging these water balloons here in a couple minutes. But my one thing, oddly, is and I normally hate when teams do this, and maybe it's just a bunch of players that I really liked, but I am just absolutely head over heels about this Cowboys defense, which is insane for me to say because you lost Dan Quinn 2 years ago now, and then you went through the Mike Zimmer fiasco. But you bring in a bunch of guys that I think so you have this mix of vets for Eberflus. So you have Dante Fowler, you have Solomon Thomas, who's really smart. You have Peyton Turner now, who we're going to see in a different light now that he's out of New Orleans. And so you have guys like that, like Jack Sanborn. Kaiir Elam, I'm not really like throwing a party for at this point. Like I think we kind of know what he is, but
they took a lot of. Now I haven't like taken a hard look at this yet. They took a lot of dice rolls on other people's draft busts. Solomon Thomas, Peyton Turner, like you said, Kenneth Murray from the Chargers, Kaiir Elam, like that. Malik Hooker, I guess, is kind of past that point where you consider him that, but he sort of was in that category too.
But they kind of revived him a little bit, right?
Yeah, they did. Like they did. So it's interesting because like those guys were drafted or highly drafted for a reason. You know, every single one of those guys I mentioned was a first round pick. So there's some ability there. So it's an interesting spot. Fowler there too. You know, Fowler obviously was the third or fourth pick in the draft, right?
Yeah. And so, but to me, well, it's twofold, right? The Cowboys have been really revving up the comp pick game in recent years. And you could tell, I mean, they're trying to rebuild the bottom of the roster, which I think is smart. But I also think they hit on these guys a lot of times. Like you said, I mean, Malik Hooker, they hit on him. He's been a good player for them. And maybe there is something to this. I mean, a lot of people kind of bash the star and that whole thing, but there's a lot of players that go there and end up playing reasonably well.
Right.
In different spots in their career. I mean, the draft itself was one of my favorites.
I really like their draft.
I think
Izaraku has a chance to be a real player. I think Tyler Booker brings like a nastiness and an edge to their offensive line that they were going to need with like losing Zach Martin. You know, I think like Will McClay and their scouting department doesn't get nearly enough credit for the job they've done. Because that's the thing with the Cowboys is like you look over the years, it's like when is talent ever really the issue? You know, like they have some teams that are more talented than others, you know, but when has it ever been like, it's been 20 years since we said like they just don't have the horses. It never seems like that's the problem.
Revel, I think, is going to be a beast. Like he
is really interesting. Really, really interesting. Now it doesn't always work out. I know it's the easy thing to do to sometimes pluck the injured guy who, and he had like a little bit of a setback, I think, with his knee, but I think he'll be okay. But yeah, he would have been, I mean, fighting to be the first corner taken if he hadn't gotten hurt. So he's another one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So to me, optimistic, realistic is 10 wins. You're in the division race and you don't lose that first wild card game. I mean, I think they're good enough to do that. I don't think that's ridiculous, right?
Yep, I agree. I'm right there with you. I think that they should have designs on being in the playoffs. I don't know if it's fair to say they should be in the playoffs. I think they're probably like right on the cut line there, but they should absolutely have a goal of getting to the playoffs. They're good enough to be there.
Here's my one thing, my one warning to all media people out there. Okay, when the Cowboys make the playoffs, when
not if
when the Cowboys make the playoffs, do not do the thing where you come out and say that you believed in Brian Schottenheimer the whole time. Don't do it, okay? Because I know all of you. I talk to all of you. I see it, okay? Nobody did. Okay. And that's fine. Nobody liked the hire. Nobody. And that's totally fine. Okay. We can all say, I didn't like this at the time. I thought they could have gotten somebody else, but this guy's done a good job. We can all do that. Okay. I have a few programs in particular in mind that I think are going to pull this. But anyway, I'll leave that to the universe.